You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello and welcome back into my wheelhouse. Today is September 17th. We're filming following a tough Patriots loss.
Who cares?
We're optimistic about pothead Josh Gordon joining our team. Hopefully he can reinvigorate our offense a little bit. We'll see how that goes.
But we had some big wins last week. We had Dan's win. That was awesome.
That's
on
right.
Wednesday,
Dan
right?
McKee,
Big
good
win.
job, Dan.
Tough.
Dan
Under
McKee.
lots of pressure.
Yes, it was
responded.
a close race all night.
Day in and day out, having yourself on the line like that.
yeah.
That was awesome. What he
Heart
did.
pounding.
Too close for comfort, if you ask me.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
quite
my
a challenge,
goodness.
though. You got Bernie Sanders doing robocalls on the day of the election for Regenberg. They were really pushing that candidate. He's getting some national attention over that, Dan, so it was a
Watch
good
out
win.
for
And
those
then
progressives.
the Sox, I mean, they're now up to 103 wins. Which Celtics team had the most wins?
Which Celtics team
Yeah.
had the most wins ever?
Yeah.
86.
No.
88?
No, it's 1973.
Oh,
Tommy
70s.
Heinsohn's team with Havlicek and
With
Collins and
Hondo,
JoJo White.
yeah.
And they won 68. So the equivalent of 103 wins would be like the Celtics winning 70 this year. And just like if the Celtics won 70, it's worth nothing if they don't do it. You know,
Oh yeah, I mean the Red Sox have they're on pace for their best record ever.
106.
And yet
So the Celtics
we're
could be-
talking about big time issues, calamities in the bullpen.
Not really.
I think there's
I
calamities in
don't.
that bullpen.
I don't. I mean, I know we don't want to talk baseball. I'm a real baseball guy. I don't think
What's
so.
the last
I think
contender
Blaze is
they've
really good.
won a series
I think
against?
Stephen Wright's going to prove out to be good. They get Matt Bonds back. They just got to avoid using Joe Kelly and Pomerantz, who might not. Maybe they won't even make the roster at the end. But I think they've got
Joe
strength.
Kelly,
everywhere.
Pomerantz, Embry,
But
the list can go
Blaze
on.
is good, and Stephen Wright's good, and Matt Bonds is good. Well,
Okay.
anyways, it'd be like if the Celtics break their record. It's not going to be worth anything either if they don't carry it all the way.
Right.
So it'll be
October.
It'll be like Golden State Warriors the year they broke the Bulls record and
Right.
then they lost to Cleveland
Yeah,
after
but you
giving
still
up the 3-1.
focus on that. I think I still focus on that. I know that, but that Golden State team, I still focus on that as unbelievable accomplishment, winning the 73 games. And,
October is coming for both the Red Sox and the NBA season. The first preseason game is on the 2nd this season.
Of October?
And the first regular season game is on the 16th. So we're less than 2 weeks away from first basketball being tipped and only about a month away from games starting to matter.
Oh,
So
it's pretty
it's-
wild.
it's
This is
great.
Chrissy's
Yeah.
favorite time of the year.
Oh, yeah.
3 sports on at the same time.
That's right.
Just renewed the Sunday ticket.
Sunday
Love
ticket.
it.
It's pretty interesting. With basketball right now, we got some like Euro Cup going on, so you can pay attention to Dennis Schroeder and what he's doing against Israel if you want to, or you can just wait another week or so and you can
Who
actually
Schroeder
see
play
him.
for?
Germany.
Germany. Okay.
But we can get to the wheel. We got a couple different things. We're going to focus majorly on some lists, specifically the Sports Illustrated Top 100. As this week continues, ESPN's NBA rank, their top 100 will leak out. We'll talk how that compares and make our own
Well, they
list.
just
as we
rank
start
every
to do
player
it
in the
before.
league. I mean, come on. You know?
Well, if you're not a top
Once
100,
you
why
get
do
to
you deserve to
100?
be considered, I guess? I don't know. But we
That
can
would take a lot of time to
we
delve
can-
through the 200s.
we can get to it.
All right, let's do it.
I'm gonna throw the wheel off the axis.
I've been
All right,
working
this
out.
will be relatively brief. After the
know, I found this one fairly
recent Phoenix Suns trade that deprived their roster of what they had in terms of point guards on the roster, I wanted to know what your guys' opinions were for potential trades that would result in hopefully a more balanced roster for the Phoenix Suns that would probably likely lead in the departure of one of their wings. Some who are more available than others, most specifically T.J. Warren,
Yeah.
and maybe shipping off some veteran presence like Tyson Chandler. They've been stated willing to trade away second-round picks, maybe first round if they have certain level of protection on them. Obviously, they have a hole at point guard. I said last time we discussed it, they've been linked in discussions, well, not discussions, but linked in the desire to land a caliber point guard ranging anywhere from Terry Rozier to Damian Lillard. With some Kemba Walker and other types of figures sprinkled in between. So out of those, or maybe other candidates that I haven't even thought about, what guys interest you in terms of a player that'll fit the Suns?
I got a couple. I know they already dealt with them, and part of my problem, I guess, is that I assume everybody's available on Phoenix.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not. But I look at the Bucks, and I say, Malcolm Brogdon and Dellavedova, I mean, and the Bucks can really use some three-point shooting. So whether it's Mikal Bridges or Ariza, Giannis can. Hey, what I did to correct myself on that, Sloan? I started putting a Y on his name all the time, so I think I'm going to get it now.
Okay.
So,
That's smart. That's honestly
Yeah,
smart.
it's like phonetic.
Yeah,
Okay.
write it down.
A lot of broadcasters
Anyway,
do that.
Giannis,
write
they
your
were
name phonetically.
20th in the league in threes last year, and Giannis needs three-point shooters. And I think they've got a couple offer there with Ariza's a 3-and-D guy. Mikal Bridges possibly could help with Middleton, and Brogdon and Delly, they're going with Bledsoe.
Okay. Something that makes me a little nervous about that is I think that with the attention that they paid to trading up to grab Bridges with the 10th pick when they had the 16th with Zaire Smith, who a player that you would think is a little bit further away, a little bit more raw than Bridges, who's a 4-year player at Villanova. Maybe they were looking for a player that's more ready to win now, and that was really just reinvigorated.
But he's not proven to be that. After
No,
the
it's not.
summer league,
But,
I wouldn't say that he's proven to be
overall,
that.
and it was more about the thought process than the necessary
Yes.
player itself, and that thought process will continue to remain strong as they double down with another big money spending 1-year play at Ariza. So I don't think those two guys are as likely to be departed as maybe a Josh Jackson.
I think it
or
all
a Dragon
depends
Bender,
on
or
whether
that
they're
type of deal.
tanking now or whether they really care. And if they really care, why wouldn't they look to pick up
I
somebody?
think there can be some sort of balance or combination of tanking now and also trying. I mean, they can try and not be a great team for still a couple of years because they have that makeup. But I think that what they really need is defense and shooting, and a leader, Phoenix, yeah. So
they need a handle at point guard. They need somebody that can actually play the position.
There's merit in the stories breaking about them looking for Patrick Beverly, prioritizing
That's
a
not a
guy
bad
like Beverly. But there is also rumors out of that camp that they're not going to give up anything beyond a second-round pick or combination of second-round picks. So, will the Clippers actually play ball with
would we
only
make
second-round
Rozier
picks?
available?
I think
Why
he would
not?
be for the right price, but I think
Robert Williams is available, I would think.
Yeah, but
Marcus Morris would be available.
Yeah, that's where we're getting closer. I think if we were to trade them Terry Rozier, we would more likely be trying to bolster even more wing depth for
think
bench
we'd go for
players. And
Ariza.
I think we would probably be going for Josh Jackson.
I don't think they'll
a
get Josh
player
Jackson.
that we've already. But his value is higher than Terry's, obviously, because he's a younger player and he's at a more high level value position in the NBA. But I think that the Celtics would be willing to trade a lower level first round pick with a Terry Rozier, with a Marcus Morris, and maybe bring in the Josh Jackson, who has a similar ceiling, similar timeline as their other young core.
Doesn't a 3-and-D guy help the Celtics a lot more off the bench than I think Ariza would help them a lot more.
Well, I think that we can get Ariza
and
for
even Mikal Bridges.
Ariza could be a buyout or a trade pennies on the dollar around the trade deadline, a type of caliber
well, you don't
player.
have to give anybody up for him.
Right. I don't think he's the same level thing. I wouldn't trade him. It was just made official.
I guess my problem there is with the trade that involved Ryan Anderson and the Suns for whatever reason trying to take on Anderson's contract, which no other team in the league was planning on doing. Even if it was gifted a first-round pick, probably. I just don't understand, who does Ryan Anderson play over in the Suns? Like, if we got Josh Jackson here in Boston, who does Josh Jackson play over in Boston?
Well, he wouldn't play that many minutes. He only play 15.
Robert Williams, and he replaces Robert Williams.
He only play 15 minutes a game, and if we were sending back a Marcus Morris, he could replace the minutes
Marcus
that he would have been
Morris,
relegated to
so
this year. I think that
for a legitimate contender, though, you would want Josh Jackson over Marcus Morris?
I don't think so.
I think that we can maintain. I think that we can maintain our contender ceiling while extending our future outlook with a player like Josh Jackson, who, I mean, obviously I was wrong, but coming into the draft day, I thought of Josh Jackson more highly than I thought of Jason Tatum. Obviously that's wrong, but this is a player who had very high passing acumen out of a small forward. He's an athletic freak. He has really, really strong defensive principles. His shooting isn't there yet, but he has offensive creation, and that's kind of where he's kind of pigeonholed himself into negative light in terms of how the media is discussing him, is because he's really pushing the envelope on his ability to create his own offense. He's trying too hard. He's trying to dribble into the heart of the defense more often than letting the offense come to him. And you see him, that's why he's struggling, and that's why his image is really dwindling. But in reality, if he's put into a system where the coach and the system really can curtail to him to what his strengths are, I think he still has an all-star ceiling as a player. I just don't think he's in the right spot.
I think everybody considers his upside strong. I mean, that guy's tremendously athletic.
Yes. All right. I think that Terry is available, and if it was the right price, it could work. And I think that Terry fits great with Devin Booker if he was to line up. But I think that in terms of point guards and teams that are more likely trade candidates, I think we're more down maybe like the 4th or 5th most likely candidate to trade. I haven't even thought about the Bucks. I think that they're high on Brogdon. They like the duo of Brogdon and Bledsoe for two different guys who can handle different aspects of the game at different times. I do think that the Damian Lillard thing, that's going to get nipped in the bud. Somewhere that we should pay attention to that was discussed previously is the Kemba Walker area. And I think if they come out of the gate and they struggle, they're a team right now on the precipice teetering on of projections in terms of a team that will be fighting for the 8 seed. If they open up Charlotte Hornets.
They're not fighting for the 8 seed.
Right now, they're being projected as a team that will be. So
they got one of the worst starting lineups in the league.
Yes, if they open up the year and they're struggling and they're going 3-11 in their first 15 or whatever it is games, and they're looking more like they'll be willing to trade a Kemba Walker and maybe punt the can down the road a little bit, maybe try to accrue some draft picks in the future, I could see Phoenix jumping on that opportunity. So I rank that higher than the Celtics. I think that a deal with the Miami Heat to try to get Goran Dragic over back to the Phoenix Suns, a player that has had history with Igor Kokoshkov, the coach, and with the Phoenix roster.
Yeah, but the Heat love him, though.
I feel like they love all of their players. And I think that their system, I think they're more focused on free agency in terms of tailoring the roster, finding the right guys that'll stand out. They have a lot of, we often talk how the Celtics don't have many middling contracts for trading. The Heat only have those guys. They only have contracts in the mid-range from the $8 million to the $16 million range that are perfectly tradable contracts. And I think they're looking to see which guys stand out. And Goran Dragic is already past his prime in terms of what his value is and that he brings on the court. So I think they're more looking for future players. The Josh Richardson, he's probably more valuable to them than Goran Dragic, even if Dragic might be better right now. I think that they're trying to look forward.
I don't think Spoelstra and Riley are in that mode. I think they're still going with Dragic. There's a team that intends to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they do intend to make the playoffs, but I think that they have enough pieces where I don't think Dragic makes a difference, and I think they'd be willing. I think they'll be willing to make a trade.
He's probably the best player on the team.
I think they'll be willing. But I think it's also close.
And the problem is just making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference really isn't that. In the end, it's not that great of an accomplishment.
Right.
If you're the 8th seed in the East, you could easily be the 20th best team.
Agreed.
And then there was a couple other teams that I thought had the ability, and I thought that literally maybe 3 different guards on the Clippers roster you could target if you were the Phoenix Suns. It doesn't even necessarily need to be a strictly one. I think any of their defensive prominent guards, Avery Bradley, obviously Patrick Beverley is the name that has been floated around most prominently. Any of these guys, if they brought him in, I think that they could fill a role. They could go after a Lou Williams who knows what his
but those guys
value
don't
is.
work. I mean, that's not what they need. They need a lead guard. They need a lead guard. They get a belt. The guys, I'm thinking, along with Sloan a little bit, that they could go direction of just holding down the fort until Booker gets back and things. And could they go with the George Hill, where you're going to have Sexton playing?
I like the George Hill move.
So George Hill helps them a lot to hold down the fort. Reggie Jackson might help them. I don't like Reggie Jackson.
Detroit's more attached to him than Cleveland is to George Hill. And
How about Collison?
I was about to mention George Hill. I think that Collison fits really well.
George Hill's the one that I would say.
Collison efficiency.
Because they're going to go with Sexton.
Yeah, Collison efficiency-wise is one of the best three-point shooters in the league, and his pairing with Oladipo and with Tyreek Evans in terms of that backcourt rotation makes a lot of sense for them. I don't think they want to stray away from that. Where George Hill, I absolutely agree. Similar to how I think Charlotte and Kemba may start to stray apart if their team goes in a different direction. Cleveland is already going into a different direction. Even if they're going to be competing with Kevin Love performing at a higher level, I think that it's obvious that they're going to be wanting to give the ropes to Colin Sexton and probably wane off of George Hill in general. I think George Hill does still have value. He didn't have the best postseason or best season in general last year, but he's still a two-way point guard that would fit great with Booker. I think overall, that's the type of archetype of a player they're going to be looking for, is a defensive guard who can do minimal but still be reputable in terms of his ball handling duties and hopefully shoot the 3-ball to a good enough degree where in instances where they have other creators on the floor, this player can play off ball in a strong manner. So I think I put George Hill and players like Patrick Beverley and Avery Bradley all near the top of the list.
What about one of your guys, Spencer Dinwiddie?
Yeah,
Fringe,
I think that's
the most improved player last year.
That'd be a great call. It'd be a great thing for Spencer Dinwiddie. I think I really like him a lot, and I think it'd be a nice spot for him. I think that's the type of player that may thrive there and be just right for that team. So if you were able to get him, that's a good one.
It'd be a fun component for already fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. He's an exciting player. I didn't even think about him, and he similarly fits that bill. I think that needing a point guard isn't the worst thing in the world because there's so many high-level starting level caliber point guards in the league.
I'm wondering whether I'm the one that's behind the curve on this or not, but what I'm hearing from you is floor general really doesn't mean a lot to you anymore, in this
doesn't need to.
generation.
It doesn't
to me,
need
it
to.
still does, and maybe I'm just carrying it forward.
I think if
I would never say Avery Bradley.
No, but
because
I think it's more if you are a floor general, that's awesome, and they can tailor a successful offense to that player. But if you aren't,
every team needs one.
I think if you aren't one, I think that there's ways to get around it and to have an effective, efficient offense overall.
For example,
I think if they
which
had
team's
to,
doing that?
if they had to classify like what they need the most, it would be defense and shooting. And I
don't think so. I mean, they don't have.
And I think if you're trying to get, in the long term, you're trying to get Devin Booker to be that Steve Nash type, the leader.
No
like
way.
he can be a point guard. He can play that
No,
position.
he can't.
You're gonna see this year. You haven't been on this.
I know that. I'm not.
Brad Ball era.
No, you don't get anyways. But a Steve Nash type, come on.
I mean, that's what they want him to try to mold his game more towards. They don't want him to be that player.
Mentality to be able to play
You don't
in that
think you don't think that he can build that mentality? I think
told you before, I love Booker, and I think Booker is an all-star, all-NBA caliber player, and I know this list doesn't agree with that at all, but not at that position, and it hurts him not to play his position.
I'm just telling you, don't be surprised if they don't trade for a point guard by opening day. If you look at the Phoenix Suns roster and their Phoenix Suns stats after the first month of the season, of Devin Booker is averaging over 23 points and over 7 assists a game. I say don't be surprised if that happens, because I think that's very realistic.
He's not even playing opening day.
I think he'll be back.
Right
I think he'll
now,
be back. We can get to it. It's just
if you
interesting
asked,
to continue to follow.
All the All-Stars, like who's going to be the next big thing.
Oh, yeah, the
like,
players love him. The players love him.
I will start to like that team if a Spencer Dinwiddie or somebody like that steps in and plays Booker off the ball.
I agree.
I don't like the team the same way with Booker.
I agree with you. Their situation looks a lot better if they do land one of these point guards. Yeah. The only thing that I am saying is, you don't need to panic because of the situation the Suns are already in. They're not looking to play us in any way.
The worst team in the league. You're right.
I like that team already. I wish I had league pass just for that team.
I'm going to watch them.
You guys should give me
Without a
league
point guard,
pass.
I don't like them at all.
All right.
It's official. Josh Gordon is now a Patriot.
For a 5th round pick, right?
Yeah, 5th round pick. It'll be exciting. All right. So Jimmy Butler and the Minnesota Timberwolves, more specifically Tom Thibodeau, are continuing their rocky relationship.
They're meeting today.
The tumultuous, they're probably meeting right now. We don't have any words out of it yet.
It's mountain time.
But it's about their future and their future outlook as a team. It's been no hush-hush fact that Butler and his mentality and how he approaches the game has been clashing with the other young talent in Minnesota, specifically most notably Andrew Wiggins, but also Carl Towns as well.
Most notably Towns.
I think most notably Wiggins, because Carl Towns is a good enough player where he makes up for part of his mentality lacking. He's clashing with both. He's clashing. It's
specifically Towns.
Towns seems like the most challenging personality in that locker room. Towns always seems like the most challenging.
Butler is specifically fed up with Towns' nonchalant attitude, just like we saw in the playoffs.
I think he's
fed up.
I think he's fed up with all of it. I think he's fed up with the bias that these young players have to not putting in the necessary work that he deems necessary to have a successful NBA career. And he's such a manic the way he approaches the game. If you're not meeting his standards, that's such an unusual concept to battle with, because there aren't many players in the league that face the game with his intensity and his approach.
This to me is really a real issue here, is that Butler sees it. Why didn't Tibbs see this 2 years ago, whenever it is, and take care of these things?
Because
he's tried to create Chicago, and it's failed miserably, him trying to recreate Chicago. And Butler is part of that, but Tibbs is the big thing here. Yeah. He hasn't been able to get Wiggins and Towns to play the way he wants them to play.
Tibbs notoriously is a good organizer of players, but maybe not so much of personality.
But him and Butler are hand in hand.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of irrelevant. Right? I mean, Butler is on the same side as Thibodeau. Butler's cut from the same cloth as Thibodeau. Butler and Thibodeau have the same vision for what they both want the younger players to envision themselves as and to put the effort into the game. But that's not the issue. The issue is that Thibodeau, the game may have passed him by in terms of the emphasis that needs to be put on ice, intense defense.
And I think the owner's seeing it now. And
Sloan, the way you put it is perfectly. Yeah, the way you put it is perfectly is that formerly he was a great tactician, and his X's and O's made a lot of sense, and we saw that success bleed through with the Boston Celtics. But the reason that team was so great up and down is because they also had a personality coach that was good at mending relationships in Doc Rivers. And this team,
he wasn't the head coach,
Tibbs
so
can't be both. Tibbs can't be both for an organization, and we're clearly seeing the pitfalls of it. And he's not able to motivate a Karl Anthony Towns who needs that. He's not able to motivate a quiet Andrew Wiggins who needs that. He is able to motivate players that have already motivated. You don't need to motivate Jimmy Butler. He's motivated the moment he wakes up in the morning. So it's interesting. They're looking to look forward, and I think that it's more likely than not that both Jimmy Butler gets traded and Tom Thibodeau get fired before the start of the NBA season. Within the next 2 weeks, I think that both those things are going to happen. They have offered, it's already been a big just stoppage and roadblock in terms of what they're expecting for the development of this franchise is what they're going to do with Karl Towns and his max contract offer extension. Wiggins signed it previously last season, and we have recent news that he has that offer in front of him. That Minnesota has given him the offer sheet. He just hasn't signed it. Yeah, Towns just hasn't signed it.
My take on this is that, and I've been down on Towns for what he's done. I think Towns thrives as soon as Butler and Tibbs are out of there.
I think so too.
I think he's a player. The guy's a player. But whatever situation, for whatever reason, he hasn't connected with Thibodeau and he hasn't connected with Butler. But he's been passive about it. That's the word that describes him.
Well,
passive.
I think he is passive.
He's just, you get the right coach in there, you get somebody else, you change that around. I wouldn't get rid of Towns.
No, absolutely not. No. You do not trade Towns. He's one of the most efficient big men of all time already. And I think that his superstardom offensively can be geared in the right manner if you have the right coach that's willing to motivate him defensively. And that's where there is pitfalls between him and Butler, and that pairing isn't going to work. Butler is more likely than not to get traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, Denver Nuggets, and one of these teams that has a lot of pieces that's looking to upgrade defensively or with star power in general. But I think that he's out of there. I think
you omitted two of the teams that he's most likely to get traded because I think he's in a win-now mode.
Absolutely,
he's 30 years old.
Right.
I think it's the Raptors or the 76ers.
No, the 76ers, a lot of the press from the media and the beat writers and the 76ers are that they don't think that fit would work as well as other situations.
You got Butler with Towns and Wiggins.
Right.
Instead, you have Butler with Embiid and Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aware.
That's awesome.
I mean, Simmons and Embiid are better than Butler.
No, but I mean, that's amazing. I'm talking about the three together, the three pieces. I think you get rid of Saric and Covington in that trade or whatever it is, and I think Butler and Embiid and Simmons are a nice threesome. There's a nice wing on that team.
I agree, and I don't think that we can ignore the Sixers, but I think the fit isn't as flush as it would be in another situation, like where he would have more offensive freedom with the ball more frequently with, say, the Los Angeles Clippers or, say, the Denver Nuggets. I don't see.
Of course, him and Kawhi. I mean,
who are the Raptors trading? OG Anunoby?
They trade Anunoby, and it's people still. I mean, look at the list. They still like Ibaka enough where he's marketable, and they give a pick. So they go Anunoby.
I would personally. I would like that. I would like that. I think that would be interesting.
There's a few places I could see being interested in him. I mean,
how can you not?
The Wizards, the Thunder.
Wizards are capped.
Win-now mode.
Thunder, Wizards are both capped out. So
what about the Pelicans?
Pelicans are similarly capped out, but that's a location that I thought would be interesting. I'm thinking 80-20. I'm projecting Butler to be traded by at least the trade deadline, and I think if Butler is traded, that's probably going to be coming down from the front office, and that probably is also going to mean that the doors open and they're kicking Tibbs to the curb.
If he gets traded to New York, does that automatically start all sorts of talks about Kyrie?
It's going to start the talks. The talks already exist.
He can make the call on it, can't he?
Who?
No? Butler?
Butler? He doesn't have a no trade. I mean, he can ask. He can say, I want to be traded here.
Okay. But he's going to become, he can opt out and become free at the end of the year.
If it was after a max contract, he'd likely
So he's got some leverage is what I'm saying.
No trade.
A little bit, I guess.
I guess, a little bit. I just can't see him going to a team that's not going to win.
I think the Clippers need to be not slept on. I think that they're an interesting teams to land both Kawhi and Jimmy Butler.
You talk about a team like they're an upgrade from Miami in terms of all their players being solid players, 1 through 15, but not great players.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. They're calling it a last-ditch effort.
Yeah, I mean, we could know within an hour that he's not even on the
talked about New Orleans and L.A. I mean, it's not on the board, but I mean, it's all in line with that. I thought Randall was a real interesting discussion.
All right, so Russell Westbrook went through another arthroscopic surgery on his knee. It's to remove loose cartilage. It's the fourth time he has had this level of surgery since Patrick Beverley fell on his knee in the playoffs.
After a timeout.
Yeah.
He did it on a dead ball and wiped him out, and now it's been 4 surgeries since then.
So it's really interesting to think about. I don't know whether he's going to miss time in the regular season. They're putting the baseline of minimum amount of time missed as around 4 weeks. That would put him like right in the week of the 16th. That's the minimum. That's the week of the 16th, which is the opening, and they open at the Warriors. So here are their first 7 games. It's Warriors on the 16th, then the Clippers, then the Kings, then the Celtics, then the Suns, then the Clippers again. And what's interesting about this is because I think even if he misses just a week of the regular season, I think that has the chance to drop them from contention to a top 3 seed to being between the 7 and the 8 seed, because it's going to be so close in that block after the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference that going in a stretch where you don't have Russell Westbrook, going 2-4 instead of going 5-3 or whatever it is, to 2-5 or whatever it may be, and getting a loss to the Clipper team that you would otherwise beat, getting a loss to maybe even the Hornets at the game after that. I mean, they're still probably going to lose to the Warriors and the Celtics, but you're absolutely increasing your probability of winning those games if Russell Westbrook's in them. I think it's going to be a huge deal if he misses even 2 weeks of basketball. I think it's going to be pertinent that he returns for opening night. We know Russell Westbrook and his mentality, so I'm not expecting him to be out for very long, but it's interesting to think about another one of these superstar point guards that have recently signed this Supermax extension. We've seen John Wall, we've seen Chris Paul sign this deal. Similarly, but not a point guard, we've seen Blake Griffin sign these deals. And all of these players are struggling with either injury or dramatic aging issues now. So it's going to be really interesting moving forward in 3 years if we just have a completely debilitated Westbrook with a $41 million contract.
Do you think that it was a knee that was hurting him, and he was hoping the rest of the offseason would make it better, or did he hurt it?
No.
Again?
No, it was a maintenance thing. They
I think
said he was
experiencing
stiffness.
It is.
And that the rest did not do it.
Yes,
and that
it
he
did.
had to wait.
Arthroscopic usually
Then the question is,
means
why did he wait so long?
preemptive.
Right.
So he was experiencing a little bit of stiffness. They said, let's do this now, as
Yeah, but
opposed
they
to in
didn't
2
do
months
it
it's a
now.
bigger issue.
They could now would have been right after the season.
Yeah, but
if it was bothering
Yeah, but we
him.
don't know when it peaked. We don't know whether it was peak hurting the day after the season ended,
True.
or it was peak hurting after
So
he
it's
was
like
doing
a
athletic
Kyrie
runs last week. We
situation.
don't know. I think that Russell Westbrook probably held out for longer than he should have with getting the surgery, but I think it made sense to do it now. And I think it's actually very underrated how important off seasons are for players in terms of improving their game. We see more and more often players that are injured during the offseason, they come in, and even if they're healthy for the tip, they don't show dramatic improvement because the offseason is where they improve. Oladipo, he had a huge improvement, but 2 of his other 4, I think, off seasons before that, he was injured in the off season and he wasn't able to improve his game. We're hearing now, Joel Embiid, he just had his first healthy off season, so I'm expecting big improvements from him. There's certain players where I think it matters, and I think maybe Russell Westbrook thinks the same way and was hoping to put in a healthy off season work, and maybe for him, this was the right time period to get this surgery. Again, just to reiterate, I think it's just pertinent that he gets back before the start of the season.
For all we know, this could have been something that he elected to do.
Yes.
Like they could have asked him, like, you can wait, or how do you feel? Are you, if it's really stiff, you might want to do it.
I think Paul Pierce has got a decent take on it. I don't, Paul Pierce is not one of my favorite players, but I really like having a Celtic in that position right now. I'm hearing good stuff come out.
He's an above average analyst.
But in a couple minutes,
he's
he can
been
have
great.
a take.
He just needs to get rid of those glasses. He makes him look like a turtle.
Turtle. How about they get up with is the bow tie built into that shirt, or is it almost? Anyways,
I like both.
His
some
take
weird
is
style.
that team needed the preseason to gel.
Yes.
And I think it did. I think that it needed the preseason to flush out Carmelo and to bring in George and him working together. And in that sense, that I think that could be a problem. But on the flip side of that, I don't mind Schroeder getting some time.
Yeah.
And then for Schroeder to come in and establish himself, because I think the issue with Westbrook at 30 years old is that he's a balls-to-the-wall player like KG. That is just going, he's got to change, he's got to tone it down. And I think if Schroeder gets established in there, you could see Westbrook play with Schroeder and with Paul George. And I think you need to see that from Westbrook. He can't play the way he plays.
I think that's Billy Donovan and the Thunder.
So it could be some sort of blessing in disguise in your eyes?
Well, I think for the team, you got to accept that it's happened. There's nothing you can do.
I guess the problem.
I wouldn't choose to do this, but I think Westbrook. It would be prudent for Westbrook to take a look at his game, work on his outside shooting, and work on adapting his game in a way that equals championship in some way, and that this KG mentality of bam, 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 bam every time you get the ball at 30 years old, that wears out, and I think it's time for him to adjust.
The flip side to that is like that all the surrounding players, all the other pieces have grown so used to this pace of play. If all of a sudden Schroeder is running the show for a little bit, Does that sort of mix them up? Does that confuse them? And does that confuse the overall?
I would also be nervous that Schroeder maybe we already know he has issues with his self-esteem in terms of how it's perceived by his coaching staff. Would that make his head too bloated in the beginning of the season if they come in and they were 3-3 in the games and he's averaging 18 points a game or something like that, and then he gets relegated to the bench and his role diminishes, even though Westbrook has already been released as one of his idols in terms of players that he looks up to within the game of basketball? Are you going to have to deal with an expected head case in Schroeder?
It's possible that Westbrook comes back slow, and it's more than 6 games, and it's 15 games, and that when he comes back, you bring him in a little bit of time and feed him back into the lineup.
That's what I think they should aim for. I think they should aim.
Those 3 guys need to get used to playing together.
I think they should aim. They should aim for waning Russell Westbrook's minutes back with Schroeder playing heftier minutes than he will be at the thick of the season to get them all used to each other.
Yeah, that's a key.
We don't know if he's healthy. They haven't been talking about him at all.
That's another guy. That's a key one there.
This is their best defender.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the league. Where are we going?
We're going
to Russell Westbrook 3 times in a row?
We don't want
4 times in a row, Russell Westbrook.
All right. We just don't want to talk about it.
All right, Sports Illustrated top 100. I'm going to go 1 through 10 right now, and then we can discuss whether or not these 10 guys deserve to be there, or whether they deserve to be different spots, or whether guys that weren't included.
Come on, the top 10 in the world are the top 10 in the world. Everybody knows who they are. It's virtually the same 10 as there were the 10 last year. It'll be the same 10 next year.
No, I disagree completely. I disagree. There's a lock for 7 players to be in the top 7, and I think after that, that's where you can start to have different arguments and different discussions. So the top 7 that I'm discussing, and you can argue where they go where, but number 1, LeBron James. Number 2, Kevin Durant. Number 3, Steph Curry. Number 4, James Harden. Number 5, Anthony Davis. Number 6, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 7, Russell Westbrook. And then they have Chris Paul at 8, Joel Embiid at 9, and Jimmy Butler at 10. So I think that LeBron through Russell Westbrook, I think that's pretty locked in as the NBA's 7 best players. You can argue whether you think Curry's better than Durant, whether Harden's better than those guys, whether Anthony Davis is better than those guys, whether Russell Westbrook deserves to be above Giannis or not. But those are the top 7. Where I think it gets interesting is when you start to discuss the Jimmy Butler, the Embiid, and the Chris Paul the tier after this 7 guys. And it's interesting, just to frame the discussion, Ben Golliver and Rob Mahoney, the 2 writers that compile this list, who really, really go in depth in the research that they use and the different sites and the amount of analytics and also film that they're watching, and the amount that they're dwelling over each selection is actually unnecessarily staggering. But I think that they really pay close attention to injuries. They pay close attention to both sides of the ball, and they say that they frame it in terms of a vacuum, which, depending on where the players in the list,
they say they don't take that into consideration.
No, it stays true depending on where the players in the list.
They don't take anything into consideration like that. They say they don't take injury.
Yes, they do. They factor in.
But they say they don't.
Yes, they do. Why do you think DeMarcus Cousins is 16?
I know that. That's one of my questions was going to be. But
injury,
they say that
in likelihood of injury, the player's two-way ability and effect on winning, and their value in a vacuum are 3 things that they're really wanted to focus on in the very first blurb before the article.
Much into this list, Shay. I really do.
Buying too much into this. I always wanted to just discuss it because of all those.
Anything for publicity. It's a dying mag.
You're wrong.
I got the original issue. Sports Illustrated is not a buyable.
You're wrong because these 2 writers are 2 of the more reputable writers in all of sports basketball.
Well, find another job.
No,
Sports Illustrated is not a good place to be.
Sports Illustrated top 100. This top 100 list gets valued more by GMs in the league, by players in the league, by national media than any other media conglomerates list. It matters more than the NBA rank on ESPN. It matters more than
buzz.
No, they're doing it to make a list.
I mean, look at the number 100 every year. The number 100.
We're not at 100 yet. We're talking about the top 10.
That's what they do. They're looking for a buzz. They're looking to gain something. Why else would Lonzo be number 100? It's because everybody's going to focus on that. It's going to be a buzz thing.
Okay, 1 through 10. Would you agree with the 10 that they have? If not, what names do you think should be in that top 10?
Kyrie Irving.
Absolutely.
I believe should be in the top 10.
Yes. I mean, they got Al Horford rated higher than Kyrie. What's with that?
I have Kyrie at 11. I don't think it's dramatic to have him outside the top 10. I can see why he could be top 10.
Shay, how can you possibly say Al Horford is rated better than Kyrie Irving?
Because I think I'll go back to the reasons that they use to frame this discussion. They They used injury. They used two-way player
I'm not
and
seeing
effect on
injury
winning.
with Kyrie right now. He's playing on 5
Yes,
on 5.
yes, but he's not injured right now. But it's about likelihood of injury, and it's about amount of games
so
that you're projecting him to play.
predict injuries?
Yes, they're predicting injuries based on previous injuries. He didn't play a single playoff game last year because he was hurt. He is more likely to get hurt than Al Horford. I agree.
Bogus.
I agree that Kyrie Irving is a better basketball player than Al Horford. I'm trying to
In
shed.
anybody's
I'm trying
eyes,
to shed
any
light.
list, he
I'm
should be
trying to
better
shed
than Al
light on
Horford.
why they have
There's
him
not
there.
a list
I
out
agree.
there that
He's too
should
low.
have that like that.
I agree. He's too low. I just have him at 11 and not at 17. But I think it's interesting. Do you have any other names that you think should be in the top 10? Because I had one more, and then the rest of their list I liked. So I had Chris Paul just on the precipice. I had him at number 12, and I think that his age, based on what load he can take in terms of offensive responsibility, is quickly dwindling. And I think we've already heard reports out of Houston that the reason that they're going after playmakers and players that can handle ball handling duties are to alleviate some of the pressure and some of the minute load that formerly Chris Paul was dependent on for. I think that he is probably only going to play around 60 games this year. I think his minute total is going to go down. We're going to see his stats
Why isn't
dip.
the injury factor factoring in with him then?
They say that it does. So they say if he was a healthy player, that he would be in the 5 range.
Kyrie.
I agree. I think Kyrie's better than Chris Paul, but they don't. That's fine. That's why we're here
They're
disagreeing.
both able to take over games. They're both so individually talented and make teams better that I think that's why they both deserve to be in the top 10. But I mean,
I'm going to read it. I'm going to give me these guys' names. I'm going to start reading some of this stuff because I'll take it for what value he's saying. But these guys are very good. But I find this, I just find this bogus and stupid.
They tend to focus on some of the wrong things. If you do look at both their writing, they're both very talented guys.
I do like how they rate Draymond Green the top 10 last year and 13 this year.
You're not too keen with podcasts, but Rob Mahoney has one of the better podcasts where he profiles storytelling in a manner that other guys don't in terms of how he profiles certain interviews with star and more irrelevant players. But he's really good. Both are good at what they do. And even if Sports Illustrated, I agree, is not as strong as it once was in terms of its public image, these two guys do have the necessary acumen where their opinion matters. And where we obviously disagree with some things, I think their top 10 is good. I would have had Kawhi in it, and I would have had Kyrie in it, and I would have had Jimmy Butler one spot lower, and I would have had Chris Paul out of it.
Where'd they put Kawhi?
They had Kawhi at 12, which is okay.
Yeah. I don't think he deserves to be top 10 after last year.
He's unknown. I think he deserves it because he's good enough, and I'm assuming he's
healthy.
But we don't know.
But if you're going to put Kawhi at 10, why does Cousins drop all the way down to 60? That doesn't make sense.
Well, because Kawhi's going to play game 1, DeMarcus Cousins probably isn't going to play to January 1st.
Why did Cousins get a $5 million contract?
Yeah,
I mean, there's legitimate concerns there for good reason.
Do we have any issues with after LeBron with Durant being above Curry, Curry being above Harden, and Harden being above Davis? 2 through 5.
How do you feel above Davis? I would put Davis at 3. I would put Davis at 3.
Davis, I think, is an MVP candidate right out of the gate. And I think after the way he finished last season, I don't think any of the other players, save for LeBron and Kevin Durant, could do what Anthony Davis did by himself after Cousins went down.
I think that I agree. I think I would have Anthony Davis above Harden. And I often, I like to value what offensive impact Steph Curry has on the Golden State Warriors, and I think.
Can we talk a little more about Anthony Davis?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing right now.
What I'm seeing is Magic Johnson's vision, and all of a sudden I'm a Laker fan. I'm sure I am
because of what?
I'm liking that team in the sense that I think they're going to give the keys to Rondo. And I think what Magic Johnson is seeing is he's seeing if Rondo and Davis and Jrue Holiday work, then holy crap! If he's got Rondo and LeBron and and Davis, he's got a better team than they were down. I think Rondo is a big surprise out there, and I think the Lakers are going to get Davis. I hope it's sooner rather than later, but to me that seems to be the plan.
Okay. I think so, but I think that back to the top 5.
Okay.
I think that Anthony Davis.
I like that discussion a lot more than this.
I think that Anthony Davis is absolutely a name that we need to pay attention to in terms of the MVP discussion.
All world.
I think that he is going to have a better year than James Harden. He's absolutely going to win an MVP before his career is over. It's just about Anthony Davis. Yeah. It's just about when that is going to happen.
Year.
I think it's this season. I think that he deserves to be in the discussion for number 2 overall. It's still LeBron James's league. But it will be interesting when does LeBron fall out of the number 1 spot?
When he retires.
Well, eventually.
I mean, he's like Tom Brady.
I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 years because you do have the thing with this list is what it does pinpoint and sort of highlight to us is just the overall strength of this league,
True.
the
Yes,
strength of
yes.
the sport.
True. Yes.
To be able to, say after watching Giannis and all that he could do, that he is the 6th best player.
Yeah.
I mean, that
I
is
agree.
amazing.
Yes.
What other sport has somebody that strong out of the top 5 of overall
Yes, I agree.
And
greatest
in line
players?
with that, Sloan, how about the guys that didn't make the top 100?
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
be kidding me.
Let's scroll to a different area.
There's a lot of good
I'm
players.
gonna try
in
one
this
more
league.
spin.
Yeah,
Was
or
it
you can
350
get,
players?
you can get
That's about
choosy.
it. They should have ranked all 350.
Let's go
450. All right,
to the bottom
from the
half.
top to the bottom. So,
Okay.
50 to 100. I'm not going to say every name. I'm just going to call out some people, and you tell me what we think. We can end with the
Why don't we
discussion.
do who the surprises are down
Do you want
there?
to talk about who didn't make the list? You want to
Well,
talk
we
about
could start
names?
that, so below 100, we could, yeah.
Well,
we
I
could
got
talk
a
about that.
few.
Okay, so snubs.
I think you got an all-star team on players that didn't make the list.
Snubs. I'm gonna shout out. We got Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, both rookies. Marcus Smart, Tyreek Evans, Dinwiddie, Markelle Fultz, Danilo Gallinari, Buddy Hield, Enes Kanter, Kyle Kuzma, Zach LaVine, Andre Roberson, Rondo, Isaiah Thomas, and Hassan Whiteside are all left off the list.
Unbelievable.
I think somewhere with
Top 100.
with every single one of those players,
That's
they
bogus
deserve
list,
to,
bogus list
they
to
deserve
leave
to
those
be on
guys
here over the equal
Come
number
on.
of people that were left off than on there.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, because you have you got Lonzo Ball
100.
at 62.
Who?
Or is that what?
Lonzo Ball's at 100.
Personally?
What? No. What did ESPN?
Lonzo's
or what
Lonzo's
is-
100. ESPN
Oh, they
has him
had
like
him at 100.
ESPN the list for ESPN's 100 to 50.
And Sports Illustrated had him not on the.
Lonzo was 100 for Sports
Oh, 100.
Illustrated. Yeah.
He shouldn't be on it if Isaiah Thomas isn't on it.
Why do you say that?
Because Isaiah Thomas 2 years ago was an MVP. I think last year he couldn't find his fit, but I mean he's obviously
agree. Same thing with
able
Rondo.
to make more of an
We're
impact.
talking top
for a
100
team.
here.
Yeah. So okay, out of all those names I listed,
And why
do you
aren't
have
there
any-
rookies on
do you have
there?
any other
Why-
names? Do you have any other names besides those names I listed that were snubbed off?
That was not Buddy Hield.
Yeah. Okay. I said.
Oh,
it.
Spencer Dinwiddie, Gallinari.
Yeah, I said all those.
You said all of those?
Yeah. Yeah.
Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, I said them.
You
so,
did. Jabari Parker.
I didn't say Jabari Parker.
Kyle Kuzma.
I said Kuzma. I don't know if yeah, but okay. So now I'll go
Lots
over
of guys.
I'll go over some names that I don't think deserve to be in the top 100. They have Pau Gasol at 98. He is not worth reputation in the top 100. He's based in there probably a name value alone.
He's 98.
Reggie Jackson, Dirk Nowitzki, DeMar Cowell, Evan Fournier, Kent Bazemore.
Evan Fournier belongs way up. He went much higher than 92.
I don't think so.
I do.
Kyle Anderson, Taj Gibson,
Kyle Anderson, definitely.
Domantas Sabonis.
I love Sabonis.
It's just
He's only
that
79.
all those guys I don't think have the necessary resume or the necessary skills and abilities where they deserve a spot on the list over proven either feisty players that are winning players like a Marcus Smart or a Dinwiddie or a proven scorer in Hield or Gallinari or a proven prominent rebounder or an offensive threat in Enes Kanter or rising not stars but rising young players in Luka Doncic, who should honestly be a top 60 player.
Are any
if you're
rookies
Oh,
thinking
what
about
about
it.
Are any
Tyreek
rookies
Evans?
on the list?
Tyreek Evans is
Evans
on
is
So
snubbed.
rookies don't make the list.
No, they don't. They tried to do it last year, and I think they take too much heat for it, so they just
So I
decided to leave them
assume
off.
they're just not included. That's,
They just don't include them. Yes, they don't
Dwayne
include
Wade was snubbed.
Okay, so now Lonzo Ball was listed at the number 100 player, and Rajon Rondo was not included.
But don't you agree
These are
that-
the two
That is
players.
It's
ridiculous.
evidence of how bogus this whole thing is. That the reason Lonzo's number 100 is because we're going to talk about Lonzo.
Well,
and if you put
we
if
would
you
be
put
talking about
Brogdon at number 100, you wouldn't talk about Brogdon at 100.
I think you talk
but
about-
Lonzo attracts attention.
I think you talk about Lonzo, but no matter where he's numbered.
If
so I don't
Lonzo
think it
didn't
makes
make the
matter.
list, we'd still be talking
Yeah,
about
no
him.
matter where Lonzo was, we're going to
who
talk
he
about
is.
Lonzo. If they put Brook Lopez at
100 is a
and
is a
Lonzo at
galvanizing
99.
I mean, Booker was number 100 the year before last.
Yes.
Booker was number 100.
So
last year was D'Angelo Russell.
I do think that there are players that they try to get some eyeball grabs with,
Yes.
but that they still don't feel like they're ranked too far out of what their realm is in terms of these two national writers' perception. And it's not just the two of them. They do survey players, they survey coaches, they survey GMs, they survey other writers in the industry, not only with Sports Illustrated, and they get everyone's input on it, and then they compile it together. They do a good all-encompassing amount of research. It's just whether or not in practice it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Lonzo Ball and Rondo I think are both like 80 players in the NBA. I think Lonzo Ball is probably 75,
His
and Rondo's probably like right
Rondo's
around
like one of the
80.
best creators in the game.
Let's
He's
go,
the
let's
best
go with
passer
Paul
in the
Pierce,
game.
and I'm with him. What Paul Pierce is saying, the best point guard of his generation. I don't quite agree. I think Tony Parker's the best point guard, but Rondo, the best point guard of his generation, and he's still Got it. I think he does. To say he's 80th is ridiculous. He's a top 25 player.
Well, that's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard.
No, what do you mean?
Because he's absolutely
He's the best point guard of his generation, and he's still got his game.
Because he's not the best.
You watch.
top
You watch.
25
They
is
get
ridiculous.
Davis there. That team is a championship contender, and I'll rather
think-
watch them than Golden State if they get Davis with that team.
I think
and
that-
they give the ball around.
If he was a top 25 player, he wouldn't have played for 7 teams in the past 3
Hey,
years.
it's all mental. It's not physical with him. It's all mental. It's all Rondo being Rondo. But you saw
Top
at the end of the-
25, Mike.
You saw at the end of
You
the
can
year
look at
last
a
year with
list.
New Orleans. You saw that caliber of play. It's there.
Okay,
It's there.
have to
It's
give
there
him
right now with
is
the
Rajon
Lakers.
Rondo better than Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton,
Yes.
Drew Holiday? That is so okay.
come on.
That,
He
your
is.
opinion doesn't
He
matter.
plays a
You're just
different
invalidating
position.
Your opinion
yourself.
doesn't
Bradley
matter.
Beal cannot do what Rondo does. Rondo
Yes,
can't do
but the
what
value
Beal
that he
does.
brings to the game is so much more dramatic than what Rondo does.
But Rondo will improve the Lakers much more than Bradley Beal will.
No, wait,
Yes, he
wait.
will.
Rondo might not be
Of
on the
course.
Lakers next year, and they're going to have an
It's
all-star
this year.
replace him.
You got to go for it this year. You can't be thinking next year. They go.
If there was a mute button, we'd have it on you right now.
That-
Because you were
What?
arguing with you were arguing with
What?
player efficiency ratings. You're arguing with plus minus.
I'm arguing
you were
with my
arguing.
eyes.
Okay. Well,
I'm looking at it. Did you watch the playoffs last year?
don't even have a TV.
Did you see?
Did you watch New Orleans? Did you watch how Rondo played?
Did you see him on the defensive
Anthony
end of the floor?
Davis.
Did you see him shooting
I
the ball?
thought he
Did you
played
see?
well on
Did you see
defense.
him playing off ball?
I
Did
thought
you
he
see him
played-
doing any
yes,
things that matter?
all of that.
No, he
all
didn't do
of
all
that.
that. He's a strong passer,
He's
strong
right
pick and roll
there. He's
creator.
not past his prime in any way.
He is less in his prime than he was 8 years ago, but it doesn't mean that he's not a strong
That
player.
gap in his play is all Rondo's head. And if
Okay,
he's in
so
the right
the
spot, I think he was in the right spot in New Orleans, and he's in the right spot now with the Lakers.
The Los Angeles
He's
Lakers.
there to play.
The
And
Los-
Davis is coming to
the
join.
Los
Top
Angeles
25.
Lakers.
Him and Davis and LeBron are taking that team. And I hate to say this because I'm not a Laker
Los
fan.
Angeles Lakers on game 1 will be starting Lonzo Ball over Rajon Rondo
They better-
$1.
Oh, yeah, we'll go with $1. And by the
$1.
way, Shay, good job paying up on the
Yeah, it
on
took
the,
me a
on the
little
KC
bit.
bet.
Yeah, I think-
I'll get another $1. Put that one down first day.
So, I think
there's no
that-
reason either.
I think-
Why would they ever start Lonzo over Rondo?
Because Lonzo better, and Lonzo his future matters more, and he's more defensively
There had to
intact.
be a
and
vision on that team. There had to be a vision on that team
wait,
for Magic
please,
Johnson and
wait,
LeBron.
wait,
And it is not
wait.
Lonzo this year.
Can you wait?
It's Rondo, Davis, and LeBron. That's their vision.
Okay.
Davis
Their
is
vision's
going to
also
be there.
their vision's also Jimmy
You
Butler, Klay
already
Thompson,
saw
all these
Rondo
names.
play with Davis.
I don't know what
When
you're talking
Rondo
about.
plays
For.
with
He's not on the
Davis
team.
and
Why are you
LeBron.
talking about him being on this team? He's not on this team yet. They don't have him yet.
He
right
can't
now,
wait
right
to
now,
get there.
Stop. Right
He
now.
can't-
Stop.
he's got LeBron's agent.
Stop.
He's got
Stop.
LeBron's
Stop.
agent.
you gotta let other people talk.
Stop. Right now, Rajon Rondo doesn't have Anthony Davis on this team. Right now,
He's coming.
Right now, he has Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram as his stretch fives. He has Movitz Wagner. They need a
They're
more
coming off the
they
bench.
need a more defensively reputable point guard to start in this lineup
They're nothing until-
because their team doesn't have enough defense with Rondo in the lineup. He doesn't try from game 1 to game 2 defensively on the level that he
played well on
needs to.
defense last year.
No, he didn't. He was
And
a
Donovan,
weak
he
defender.
played okay. He
We're
played-
going to get past this. Your output on it is not reasonable. So
Sure it is.
No, the players
You don't think Anthony Davis is going to the Lakers?
I think that he might be.
Might be.
Yes.
You need like around the horn.
Yes.
You need one of
Yes.
those mute
I
buttons
need
and
something.
negative 5 points.
Yes.
Minus 5 points.
Yes.
I'll do the $1 bet on Davis going to the Lakers.
No, because I agree with you. I think that is
So
more.
if you agree with me that Davis coming to the Lakers, you don't see Rondo, Davis, and LeBron
I saw-
as a big. They may be the best three in the league. They may be the best threesome in the league.
So-
Rondo, Davis, and
so-
LeBron.
so last-
best threesome in the league.
so
Tell
last-
me a better
Yeah,
one.
with 2 of the top
Tell
5
me a better
in
one.
it.
tell you a better one.
A better
Klay
one.
Thompson,
Not
Draymond
better.
Green, and
Not better.
Kevin Durant.
Not better.
Okay.
Not better. Because Davis is plays
Okay.
the game much differently than
The-
that.
the New
And
Orleans-
LeBron is better than all 3 of them.
I agree.
So
New Orleans-
they're,
the New Orleans-
they'll be the best threesome in the league.
The New Orleans Pelicans last year had a better offensive and defensive rating when Drew Holiday was at the point guard and Rajon Rondo was on the bench. Rajon Rondo did show good chemistry with Anthony Davis, but the New Orleans Pelicans were better
as much
when
as
he
you
wasn't on the
disagree
floor.
with me, I gotta
statistically.
disagree with you.
Can we
Did
talk
you
about
watch them play or not?
Yes, did you?
Did you watch them sweep Portland? Did you watch them? They were dynamite with Rondo. That was beautiful basketball.
He was the third most important player on that team.
No.
Okay, it's crazy. All right.
Can we talk about the Celtics on the list?
Yes. Terry
Yes,
'cause I
Rozier
think
is
that-
82.
I think Terry
Bad.
Rozier should be a little bit higher.
Yes.
I think he could be. He could easily be a starting caliber point guard on one of the best teams in the league. So
I think that
I think
this,
he showed
this
his
is where
chops.
their vision that they try to outline fails, and
Yes.
where they're saying we're looking at players in a vacuum, and if you surround this specific player with an average level of caliber of player, how would that team perform? And I think that they're grading Terry Rozier in terms of what his role is now and what he is perceived in the Celtics system now and what he gives the Celtics now.
But why?
With not in a vacuum, because if he's in a vacuum and he's a starting point guard, he is a top 20 point guard in the league if he's a starting guard.
And
he is a starter through and through.
A player's situation with their team
he should be
has
top
to
65.
Equally bogus is the Celtics realize that Smart's a lot better than him. Why doesn't this list realize that Smart's a lot better than Rozier?
Smart should be on the list.
Come on.
Smart,
All you got to do is look at the
top,
team.
I mean, Smart's a top 5 defender in the entire NBA. The fact that he's not on this list is abominable.
He's
It's
a
abominable.
difference maker.
But yet they pick Rozier.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I
So
like
what are they,
Jason
blind?
Tatum at 39 either. I think he might be top 30.
That's not what we're still in the 50 to whatchamacallit.
Oh, yeah.
A couple more players that I just think are a little bit off. I think DeJounte Murray at 89 is pretty preposterous, seeing that he was just an all-defensive caliber level player. I think especially coming into this season with the departure of Tony Parker, with the departure of other guards in that rotation, and the necessary the need that team is going to have for not only a point guard with a good reputation to step up, but also a leader, qualities that DeJounte Murray has displayed that he has. I think he is going to matter a lot. And I think he is a player, I think out of every single player on this list, is the player that they have most wrong in terms of what number they have him now and what number he will be going to next season. I think he is a top 50 player in this NBA.
They're so wrong. These guys are so bad. I mean, they got Lauri Markkanen at 84.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
No way. You see Lauri Markkanen? He's going to...
I think he's right about 84.
He's better than that. And how about Ingram? 75.
Yeah, maybe he's like 65. I don't think that's that crazy.
Do they not
I
do
think
rookies?
those guys are solid
didn't put
players.
them.
So did they not do rookies last year?
No, they did. And
How
they
about
got
Booker
him
at
low.
50?
I think that's too low, but Ben Golliver is pretty infamous for being low on low efficiency, high usage players, and Booker.
So they're
fits
just
that
looking
bill.
at numbers.
No, they look at everything, and he.
I think the
he
thing
thinks,
is, like, in this line of work and in this industry, everybody does lists. Like Slam does lists,
Yes.
SI,
Yes.
ESPN, and where I got
So
my
we're
sports
playing
rating
their
start,
game.
Bleacher Report. They started their entire model and product off of lists.
Yes.
They
No,
get
it's true.
people talking.
I mean,
but
we
some
do lists.
some are better at lists than others.
Of course.
For sure.
But most of the talk is how bad they are at picking a list.
I agree. So I think DeJounte Murray is the player that they have too low, most
What do they have him
low
at?
he's ranked 89 out of 100 to 50.
That is
And the player that they have ranked to the most high is Derek Favors, who they have at 51. I think Derek Favors is closer to 90 range than 50, kind of a flip at what DeJounte Murray. If they flip DeJounte Murray and Derek Favors, I think their list gets dramatically more accurate. I think it's very silly to give him the credit that they can also give to Rudy Gobert. I mean, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but they're giving him defensive recognition where it's more about the team overall and about the coaching and less about what his individual inputs are. I like Derek Favors. I think that he's a good big that is transitioning a little bit to the modern game, but he only starts on half the teams in the league, and more often than not, he can get played off the floor by a team that has a strong pick and roll creator.
So you have to wonder whether they just got a formula that they plug these things in and spits out Favors, because there's no other reason they would pick them. I mean, nobody's going to rate Favors that high. When you got these other guys, I mean, Iguodala's better than Favors.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think that I don't know. It's interesting to think about. Just a couple more names. They put Boogie at 68, but I don't think it's worth discussing because he's hurt, so it doesn't really matter.
Except they got Paul. Where they got Paul,
Two more players that I think are one too low and one too high. I think that I have Dario Saric at 54. I think that's much too high. He's definitely a top 100 player in this league, and his contributions matter, but I think we're going to see him kind of in his ability to affect the game kind of get shifted to the wayside a little bit this season because of the insertion of Markelle Fultz and other players taking another step this year. I think that Dario Saric is a good player, but 54 is much too high. He should be much more around the 80 range.
Where do they have Covington rated?
Covington's ranked 48.
Okay.
And we can just jump down right to the 50 to the 30 range. We just said Covington's at 48. I'm going to rattle them through because there's only 20 names. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Devin Booker. This is from 50 down to 30. Devin Booker, Eric Gordon, Robert Covington, Jaylen Brown, Andre Drummond, Goran Dragic, Gary Harris, DeAndre Jordan, Otto Porter, Blake Griffin, Marc Gasol, Jason Tatum, Steven Adams, Paul Millsap, Mike Conley, Clint Capella, Donovan Mitchell, CJ McCollum, Kemba Walker, and Kevin Love. What name stands out for being in the wrong spot, and why do you think they should be higher or lower?
I'm not as big on Covington as most. I think he is a good defender. I think he can occasionally, benefit you with 3-pointers. But I think he also sometimes shoots unnecessary shots, and I think he disrupts an offense. Where is JJ Redick?
JJ Redick is 62, which I think is okay.
Not to get all
just
riled
love
up
JJ
again,
Redick
but I think he's one of the missing pieces with the Lakers too. I think Redick's coming to the Lakers too.
He could be too.
So and he'll complement Rondo very well, and that'll fill that starting team up terrifically.
I like Tatum in the top 30.
Can we just close?
I like Tatum in the top 30.
Close on Covington real quick. I think it's interesting that they have a player like Covington at 48 and they have a player like DeJounte Murray at 89. I think that these players are very similar in terms of what the value they're bringing to a team. I think Covington is one of the best wing defenders and 3 and D, more the D than the 3 players that they have in the league. It's very interesting that they have him this low, but this where he is, but I think his defensive reputation upholds this. I agree. So to Tatum and Jalen, we'll focus and we'll end it off on these two guys.
Let's go with them, because he's isolated. What I'm seeing is that a lot of people out there right now, they're separating Jaylen Brown and Tatum.
They're closer.
And they're not. They're doing what Sloan just did. Tatum belongs higher, and Brown, and there's a separation between. I still see them as equal players.
No, me too. And I did my own.
Nationally, that's not happening. They're starting to question Jaylen Brown for no reason at all.
And they're wrong.
And they're starting to push Tatum higher and higher.
So Jalen's at 47 in this list, and Tatum's at 39. I did my own list, and I had Tatum at 32 and Jalen at 33. And I do think that they are a neck and neck level player. I think that Tatum, moving forward, will be a more consistent player. I think the ceilings of Jaylen Brown on both ends of the floor are going to be higher. I like.
Do you agree that that Brown is being
dramatically underrated? Yeah, dramatically underrated.
I have them about 8 apart, but me personally, I have Tatum at like 28.
Yeah.
So I think saying that they're both top 35, 36 talent is appropriate.
All right, open it up to the rest of the list. Do you have any other names? Do you have large
Simmons
qualms
does not belong there.
Simmons belongs lower than 26.
Yes.
I believe he's higher than 26.
What
about Rudy Gobert at 14? What do you think about that?
Too high.
Too high.
Just because he's a great defender doesn't mean that he's as big a difference maker as the 5 people listed right after him.
Yes, I agree.
It's crazy to me. I would say put him in the top.
He's rated as
30
the
or
best
40.
defensive player, and it's just getting him so much acclaim.
It is. It's too much acclaim.
And he's a great rim protector, and it's hard, I think it's harder to drive to the hoop on him than any player in the league. But to say he's a better defender than Anthony Davis is way off. He can't, like we've talked about it before. He can't step out.
I think what this list certainly points out, with big bold letters, is the fact that Sports Illustrated is blinded by the more popular names. And they're not really talking about like what we all see and what we analyze. Like they're just talking about the Covington and DeJounte Murray thing. Like we all see that DeJounte Murray means a lot more to his team individually.
He does.
But because Covington has been the more popular name maybe over across the entire current of the NBA,
so
he gets higher.
I think again. Where they failed their own evaluation system is with players like Rudy Gobert at 14 and Draymond Green at 13, where these players benefit from being in a strong defensive system with good defensive coaching and good defensive supporting casts, where their defense looks better than it is. Not that it isn't great, because both are great individual defenders, but their effect on the game in terms of how it turns into wins with their prominence defensively is not as efficient as an offensive powerhouse's ability to affect winning, a la John Wall's offense or Karl Anthony Towns' offense or Jokic's offense. Yeah, but that's more subject to his teammates.
I don't agree with that.
How many owners and managers would take Rudy Gobert over Damian Lillard?
Right.
Like, it's insane.
No.
That's an insane
Well, they're
concept.
one spot apart, but I think it should be dramatically
different.
different.
But still,
I think Rudy Gobert can affect the game. There's a choice there between Gobert and Lillard. You're choosing different things. And Rudy Gobert can affect the game. There's no doubt about that. He may affect the game in the same way that
a
Lillard
team
does.
with Rudy Gobert as a franchise player wins 40 less games than a team with Damian Lillard as a franchise player.
Not 40, but it's
yeah, but unfortunately,
it's
Lillard's team's not going to make the playoffs.
It's interesting if you listen to one of the beat reporters, and he was like the founder of like the Locked On Network, David Locke, and he writes for the Utah Jazz, and he's their color commentator as well. He thinks that Rudy Gobert's defensive contributions are just as valuable as James Harden and Steph Curry's offensive contributions. And I think that's where there's a huge pitfall, because people are beginning to overcompensate for a specific player's value on one end of the ball, whether it's negative or positive, and how it affects the game, not considering that if a player plays each other, if Rudy Gobert played Rudy Gobert, someone's going to win. The score is not going to end 0-0 because Rudy Gobert is a great defender. Someone's going to win because they score, and at the end of the day, scoring and offensive output trumps defensive.
It could be a 0-0 tie.
And this will be at least the third time I said this, but I keep falling back that no franchise player has come from Europe other than Dirk, and it took Dirk 14 years before he became a franchise player.
No, I agree.
And Rudy Gobert is not a franchise player in that reason. Until I see Kristaps Porzingis step up, or Doncic may be the first one, they're pegging this guy as a franchise player when there have been no Europeans that come in. It's a different frame of mind over there. They don't become
we got to
franchise
close
players.
out. I'm pinning DeJounte Murray as the player to rise the most in this list. Thank you for joining us
where's
on this episode. He's ranked 19th. Until
was
next
77
time.
last year.
Later. Have a good
Go
one.
Red Sox. Go Patriots.
Wheel is turning and can't slow down.